Hey guys, so we are back at Intel. Intel has definitely been killing it. If you watched the video that I posted a minute back, when before we got the news about Intel and Nvidia, where Nvidia invested $5 billion into Intel, you will notice, you will see in that video, as well as in that in my post, if you're in my Skool community, that we caught a bull pennant before the move took place, which played out very well. And so now we're back because there is currently rallying now from the news that Nvidia is seeking an investment from Apple to kind of step up on the bid from with this whole Nvidia investment. Now they're seeking one out from Apple. And so here's the thing, that news has Intel rallying up. Okay, as of right now, we are at $33.38 on Intel. Okay, but I'm not quite ready to jump back in just yet. But I'm hoping first, before I do get it, is for a pullback. A pullback is always the best move when a stock has rallied up like that. We got in all the way down here when this pennant here was forming out. And then before the news came out, it was still playing out pretty well. But then the news came the next day. This thing jumped all the way up, left us with a little bit of a gap here, and it came back down and it's pushing back up. And I'm going to show you guys what this red box is here in just a second. But this is going to be the key thing. I have a $40 to $45 target on Intel if this news of Apple actually goes through, in terms of Apple announced that it does invest in Intel. That shit will go crazy. Okay. And so, but we see what the rumor, what the news is doing to it right now. Okay. So if Apple actually makes that investment, that will be an amazing place. So this is not a day trade that I'm looking to do. This is definitely going to be one I'm going to be getting with anywhere between a December and January expiration, just in case it take a little bit time for, they could make their investment, but they may not announce it right away. Or if this news come out a little bit later this year, I definitely want to be on the right side of that. And so earnings, they have earnings coming up on October 23rd, just something to kind of keep on your radar. Okay, so what I want to see is we get a pullback on Intel before I make another entry for my long. Okay, so what I'm looking at, you guys see we have this gap up here that it made from when that news hit, and then it jumped up here. Now I was actually expecting it to come back down, but I was wanting to see if they were going to fill that gap before we rolled it back up. But you see where we got that little bounce at, right up in here. This right here is from July 31st. This candle right up in here where we had this little stop up here at, what is that, about $28. And so you can see here we pushed up, we came right back down, and it bounced perfectly right at this same level that it did up here, and then it began to push back up. So what I'm waiting for right now is for it to come back to this level. I'm kind of confident that if once it starts to come back down, I'm confident that we could fill that gap before it pushes back up, instead of bouncing back on this top of this red box right here, which is around that $28 level where we kind of had some support up in here. I say it all the time to keep you reminded that when something breaks a resistance, which is kind of up in this area, it becomes a support. So when it comes back down, now it's no longer a resistance. It's now support to kind of offer a floor, a cushion for the price. And as you can see, it did that here, and it kind of kept that same thing right up in this area here. Now, I initially had this little yellow line here because when we pushed up like that, I was looking forward to still come below this and kind of come back and retest here. You guys kind of see in this area where we had that little resistance right there from this little period here, which was what, back in February. Okay, so that's why I put that there to say, okay, we might can work with something around this area, but it bounced at this area instead. it. I'm not tripping though, because I believe that we can get a pullback to this $28, $27, or for them to just to simply get this gap filled that they left here from that jump up, and then make my move to get back in. Okay, so this is one of those ones that we might still push up. We just might. And I'm still not going to trip about it, because I am definitely waiting for it to come back, because it's market psychology. It will come back. And when it does, that is when I will make my move. Okay. Now, I was also looking at something else. Okay. You guys see what we have this. Let me come up here. I'm going to zoom that in a little bit. Okay. So right up in this little area right here, let's just say hypothetically, we decide to keep on pushing up. Where would be that next level up potentially? We can look at this little area around here, which is about $37.21, or up in here between 36 and 37. We could potentially touch those highs before we come back down, but breaking above that, we could definitely push back up. So let me say this before I close this video out. If you watched the video where I talked about what were gaps and what resulted in gaps, we never know how long it's going to take for a gap to fill. There are some charts or some stocks that still got gaps that have not yet been filled. So it's not something to worry yourself about massively. We'll eventually get back there for a gap to be filled, but we never know how long it's going to take. So I don't base everything on the gap, but when the gap is as close as it is here, I'm a little bit confident to say, okay, I believe we can fill this before we continue to push higher, simply because it's not some massive faraway gap. Like this is what, $33. It's not like the gap is down at $10 or $15. But when you see gaps that far down, you don't really have to pay much attention to them until we start getting closer and closer. And you say, okay, there's a possibility they're going to fill that gap and then start rallying back up again. Okay, so that's where my mind is on this in terms of this gap. Small gap to fill, not that far away, an easy fill, and then an easy run up. Okay, so don't take the gaps too serious, but when they are close like this, it's just when I keep it on my radar to see what they may do before we push it up. But patience is the name of the game. Those levels are important. When you master your levels and your entries and your exit, it is what is the result of having a great play. Okay, so let Intel do its thing. I want to see it come back. If you can wait for it to come back before you make your move, that would be perfect. But as always, watch the charts, do your own due diligence, and make your decision from there. So I will keep this one on everyone's radar. Keep it on your own radar. Watch those levels. And with that, I will see you guys in the next one.